The first rule of hiding was simple: never make yourself comfortable. Comfort bred complacency, and complacency got you caught. Zara had learned that lesson the hard way during her third week of freedom, when she'd spent 2 nights in the same abandoned barn and woken up to tracker wolves circling the property. She'd escaped by the thinnest margin, leaving behind the only blanket she owned and a photograph of Marcus that she'd stolen from his room the night he helped her flee. Welcome to Ken's Romance Stories, where every heartbeat has a story and every scar has a name. Where are you watching from tonight? I hope your day's been gentle on you. And if it hasn't, may this story bring you a little peace, a little magic, and a reason to believe in love again. Let's dive in. 8 months later, she perfected the art of being nobody. She kept her naturally black hair dyed a mousy brown using crushed walnut husks and coffee grounds. She wore oversized clothes that hid her omega frame. She MOV ed only at dawn and dusk when most wolves were transitioning shifts and less alert. She never stayed anywhere longer than 3 days. And she absolutely never, under any circumstances, used her power. The lighthouse had seemed like the perfect place to wait out the worst of winter. Condemned, isolated, reportedly haunted, everything that would keep normal wolves away. She found it 2 days ago, scraped together enough driftwood to make a small fire in the keeper's quarters on the 2nd level, and had been rationing the last of her dried fish and stale bread. The storm had started that morning, rolling in from the ocean with a fury that turned the world white. By evening, the wind was strong enough to make the entire stone structure groan, and Zara had wedged herself into the corner farthest from the windows, trying to conserve body heat. She'd been stirring a thin soup made from melted snow and the last pinch of salt she had when the banging started. Not the howl of wind or the crash of waves against the cliffs below, but the unmistakable sound of fists pounding against the lighthouse door. Rhythmic, desperate, human. Zara's first instinct was to douse the fire and hide. Her second was to run for the secret passage she'd discovered in the basement, a maintenance tunnel that led down to the caves below the cliffs. But something made her pause. Maybe it was the sheer desperation in that sound. Maybe it was 8 months of talking to no one but herself. Maybe it was the memory of Marcus's face the night he'd unlocked her chains and whispered, "Run, and don't look back. You deserve to be free." She crept down the spiral stairs, her bare feet silent on the worn stone. The lighthouse door was solid oak, weathered by decades of salt spray and storms, with iron bands across it that had rusted into place. It hadn't been opened in years. Zara had climbed through a broken window to get inside. Whatever was outside was strong enough to make that ancient door shudder in its frame. "Please." A male voice, rough with exhaustion and cold. "We need shelter. They're right behind us." Zara's hand froze on the iron bar she'd been about to lift. Multiple wolves. And someone was chasing them. Every survival instinct screamed at her to stay hidden, to let whatever drama was unfolding outside pass her by. She'd spent 8 months avoiding pack politics, avoiding any situation that might require her to reveal what she was. Getting involved with other wolves, especially wolves being hunted, was the fastest way to end up dead or recaptured. But the voice spoke again, and this time there was something in it that bypassed her logic entirely. "There are children with us. Please, we just need to get them out of the storm." Children. Zara's hands moved before her brain could stop them, shoving the iron bar up and pulling at the swollen door. It didn't budge. The wood had expanded with moisture, the hinges were rusted, and she was an omega who'd been half-starved for most of her life. She didn't have the strength to. The door exploded inward, torn from its hinges by pure force, and Zara stumbled backward as 20 figures poured inside in a rush of snow and ice and desperation. They weren't in wolf form, but they moved with lupin grace, each one immediately taking a position in the circular room as if they'd choreographed it. 17 massive males formed a defensive perimeter facing the door, their bodies tense and ready for attack. 3 smaller figures, 2 teenagers and 1 child who couldn't be more than 7, were immediately pushed to the center, surrounded by the protective circle. And standing directly in front of Zara, between her and everything else, was the largest man she'd ever seen. He was at least 6.5 feet tall, built like a warrior with broad shoulders and muscular arms visible even through his heavy winter gear. His hair was black streaked with silver, pulled back in a way that emphasized the sharp angles of his face and the strong line of his jaw. But it was his eyes that froze her in place. Molten gold, like liquid metal, glowing with his wolf so close to the surface that she could practically feel the animal's presence. "We're not here to hurt you," he said, his voice deep and controlled despite the obvious exhaustion in every line of his body. His hands were raised in a gesture of peace, but Zara noticed they were also positioned in a way that would let him defend or attack in a split second. "We're being hunted. We need sanctuary. I swear on my Alpha oath, we'll leave the moment the storm passes, and we won't bring any trouble to your door." Zara's laugh came out sharp and bitter, edged with 8 months of paranoia and 19 years of trauma. "Trouble? You've got 20 wolves bleeding all over my floor, something chasing you bad enough that you're begging for shelter from a stranger, and you're telling me you won't bring trouble." She shook her head, backing up another step. "Get out. Whatever you're running from, I want no part of it. It's the Sovereign Pack," one of the other men said. He had dark skin marked with scars that looked like they'd been made by claws, and his eyes held the kind of weariness that came from seeing too much death. "Their execution squad. At least 50 trained killers. We've been running for 3 days straight. Please, we just need a few hours to rest, and then we'll be gone." The Sovereign Pack. Zara knew that name. Everyone knew that name. They were the largest pack in the Northern Territories, ruthlessly efficient and fanatically devoted to what they called bloodline purity. They'd been systematically eliminating any wolves they deemed defective or dangerous for the last 5 years, and their definition of dangerous was broad enough to include anyone who didn't fit their narrow vision of what a wolf should be. "Why are they hunting you?" Zara asked, even though part of her didn't want to know, didn't want to get involved, didn't want to care. The silver-haired man and the scarred one exchanged glances, some wordless communication passing between them. Then the leader spoke, his golden eyes never leaving hers. "Because I refuse to hand over my pack's black omegas for execution. The Sovereign has declared them abominations that need to be purified from the bloodline." I disagreed, loudly, publicly. "So now they've declared my entire pack rogue and issued execution orders for anyone who supports us." The world tilted sideways. Zara gripped the stair railing to keep from falling, her mind struggling to process what she'd just heard. Black omegas. Wolves like her. Born with the ability to absorb and neutralize other wolves' powers, making them simultaneously the most dangerous and most vulnerable members of any pack. She'd spent her entire life being told she was a curse, a weapon, something to be controlled and used. Her own pack had kept her chained in a basement for 19 years, draining her power whenever they needed to break a prisoner or steal a rival strength. And this Alpha, this stranger who'd just broken down her door, was risking his entire pack to protect Black Omegas? "You're lying," Zara said flatly, because the alternative was too painful to believe. "No, Alpha protects Black Omegas. We're too dangerous, too unpredictable. Every pack either kills us at birth or uses us as weapons. That's just how it is." The leader's expression shifted, something that might have been anger or grief flashing across his face. "That's how it was. In my pack, it's different. Black Omegas are protected, valued, given the choice to use their gifts or not. We have 4, had 4. 2 were killed 3 weeks ago when the Sovereign attacked our southern border. 1 is in a safe house 200 miles from here. And 1," he paused, his golden eyes intense, "one we've been searching for. A Black Omega who escaped from the Blood Moon pack 8 months ago. The Sovereign wants her more than all the others combined because her power is the strongest anyone's seen in generations." Zara's heart stopped. The Blood Moon pack. Her pack. They were talking about her. "How do you know about her?" The words came out as a whisper. "Because the Blood Moon pack has been tearing apart the Northern Territories looking for her," the scarred man said. "They've offered a bounty big enough to buy a small country. They've tortured and killed anyone they suspected of helping her. They want her back so badly that they've allied with the Sovereign pack, agreed to support the purification agenda in exchange for help finding one escaped Omega. He studied her with sudden intensity. They're scared of her. Truly, deeply terrified. Which means she's powerful enough to be worth protecting. Or destroying, Zara countered, but her voice lacked conviction. She was thinking about Marcus, about the way he'd looked at her the night he set her free. Not with fear or greed, but with something that might have been love. He died believing she was worth saving. Maybe he'd been right. The howling outside changed pitch, becoming more organized, more purposeful. The 17 men moved instantly, checking weapons that Zara only now noticed they were carrying. Silver bullets, blessed blades, military-grade tactical gear. These weren't just refugees running scared. These were warriors who'd been in active combat. "How long until they get here?" the silver-haired leader asked, his voice sharp with command. 5 minutes, someone replied from near the door. Maybe less. They're moving faster than they should in this storm. Someone's enhancing them. "A black Omega," Zara said quietly, and everyone turned to look at her. "The Blood Moon Pack had me. If they're allied with the Sovereign now, they'll have loaned out my replacement. Someone they captured or coerced. Someone who can absorb speed and strength from alphas and temporarily transfer it to the execution squad." She felt sick saying it, remembering the countless times she'd been forced to do exactly that. You can't fight them. Not if they're enhanced. They'll tear through your defenses in seconds. The leader stared at her for a long moment, something like understanding dawning in those golden eyes. "You're her, the escaped Black Omega. That's why you're here, in an abandoned lighthouse in the middle of nowhere. You're hiding." There was no point denying it. Zara lifted her chin, meeting his gaze with as much defiance as she could muster. "Yes, I'm her. I'm what your pack is supposedly protecting and what the Sovereign wants to execute and what the Blood Moon Pack wants to chain up again. So now you have a choice. You can leave me here, and maybe they'll be satisfied with just me. Maybe they'll let you and your people go. Or you can stay, and we all die together." "That's not much of a choice," the Scar Man said dryly. "It's the only one we've got." The silver-haired Alpha's expression hardened into something that was pure dominant wolf, all command and certainty. "We don't abandon pack. Ever. You're a Black Omega who needs protection, which makes you our responsibility whether you want it or not." He turned to his men. Full defensive formation. Use the spiral stairs as a choke point. Anyone who gets past the first level has to funnel through one at a time. We hold until dawn, then we evacuate through whatever exit she used to get in here. "The basement," Zara said automatically. "There's a maintenance tunnel that leads to the caves below, but it's narrow and unstable, and if the Sovereign has Earth manipulators, they can collapse it on top of us. Then we don't use it unless we have no other option." The Alpha turned back to her, and his expression softened slightly. "I'm Caspian Thorn, Alpha King of the Western Shadow Pack. These are my elite guard and 3 young wolves we evacuated from Sovereign Raid 2 days ago. And I'm asking, not ordering, asking, will you help us survive this? Because if we fall here, you're next, and you'll face them alone." Zara looked at the 3 young wolves huddled together in the center of the room. The oldest was maybe 15, trying to look brave and failing. The middle one was 12 or 13, holding the hand of the youngest, who was crying silently. Children. They brought children with them while being hunted by an execution squad. They could have moved faster without them, could have stood a better chance of escape, but they'd chosen to slow down, to risk everything, to protect the vulnerable. Marcus had made the same choice. He'd sacrificed everything to give her a chance at freedom. Maybe it was time to stop running and start fighting back. "I'll help," Zara said, "but you need to understand what that means. I'm a Black Omega, which means I can absorb and neutralize powers. I can take the enhanced speed and strength from the execution squad and either drain it away or redistribute it to your people. But the process," she swallowed hard, remembering the agony of it. "It hurts, for them and for me. And if I take too much at once, I could burn out my own system and die. So I need to know exactly what powers your pack has, what I'm working with, and who's injured badly enough that they can't fight." Caspian's golden eyes flickered with something that might have been respect. 12 injured, 3 seriously. Powers in my guard range from enhanced strength and speed to elemental manipulation, fire, water, earth. I have shadow walking, which lets me move through darkness instantaneously. The children are too young to have manifested yet. He paused. If you do this, if you use yourself as a shield for us, your pack, that means when we get out of here, and we will get out of here, you come with us. No more running alone. No more hiding. You'll have the full protection of the Western Shadow Pack. I don't want to be controlled again, Zara said fiercely. I won't be a weapon for anyone, not even an alpha who claims to be different. I'm not asking you to be a weapon. I'm asking you to be yourself, with the choice to use your gift or not. Always your choice. Always your decision. Caspian extended his hand. Do we have an accord? The howling outside was getting closer. Zara could hear individual voices now, calling orders, coordinating the attack. They had maybe 2 minutes before the siege began. She looked at Caspian's extended hand, at the sincerity in his golden eyes, at the 3 terrified children who deserved better than to die in an abandoned lighthouse. She took his hand. His skin was warm despite the freezing temperature, and the moment their palms touched, she felt it, a jolt of connection so strong it nearly knocked her off her feet. Power recognized power, Alpha recognized Omega, and something deeper than either responded with a certainty that terrified her. Caspian felt it too. His eyes widened, his grip tightening reflexively. "You're—" "Later," Zara interrupted, pulling her hand away before she could think too hard about what that connection meant. "Right now, get your wounded upstairs. I need to assess them and figure out how much power I can safely channel. Everyone else, hold that entrance. Don't let them breach until I'm ready." The elite guard moved instantly, responding to the command in her voice like she was already there. Luna. Half of them stayed at the entrance, barricading it with furniture and positioning themselves for optimal defense. The other half carried the injured up the spiral stairs, careful despite their urgency. The 3 children went with them, shepherded by a female warrior with kind eyes and lethal grace. Zara followed them up to the keeper's quarters, her mind already calculating possibilities. 12 injured meant 12 potential power sources if she could heal them enough to fight. 17 healthy guards with various abilities meant she could absorb, combine, and redistribute powers in ways that would make the execution squad's enhancements look like parlor tricks. But it would require touching each wolf, skin to skin, and channeling enough power to either heal or enhance without accidentally draining them dry. The first injured wolf was a young man with a massive gash across his chest, probably from claws. He was pale from blood loss, barely conscious. Zara knelt beside him and placed her hands on his chest, right over the wound. "This is going to hurt," she warned, then opened herself to her power. It flooded out of her like a dam breaking, that strange ability that had made her both valuable and despised. She could feel his wolf, could sense the life force struggling to keep him alive, could identify the exact nature of his power. Enhanced healing, ironically, but not strong enough to fix catastrophic damage. She pulled at it, absorbing just enough to boost her own understanding of his physiology, then channeled it back amplified. The wound began to close, flesh knitting together faster than should be possible. The young man screamed. Every wolf in the room tensed, but Zara didn't stop. She pushed more power into him, forcing his body to heal in minutes what should have taken days. When she finally pulled away, he was gasping but whole, the wound reduced to an angry red scar. "What the hell was that?" he panted. "That was me saving your life." "You're welcome. Who's next?" She worked through the injured systematically, pushing past her own exhaustion and the growing pain in her chest that came from channeling too much power too fast. A broken leg became whole. Apuntured, lung reinflated. A concussion cleared. 3 with silver poisoning. She drained the toxic metal from their systems and absorbed it into herself, neutralizing it before it could kill her. By the time she finished with the 12th wolf, she was shaking and her nose was bleeding, but all 12 were combat ready. Below, the attack began. The sound of bodies hitting the barricaded door echoed through the lighthouse, accompanied by howls and snarls. Someone was using battering magic, probably an earth manipulator, because the entire structure shuddered with each impact. Caspian appeared in the doorway, his face grim. "They're breaching. We need you down there now." Zara wiped the blood from her nose and stood on unsteady legs. "I need a clear path to the entrance, and I need everyone to stay back when I engage. If I accidentally absorb your powers while I'm draining theirs, I could kill you." "Understood." Caspian moved aside to let her pass, but as she reached the doorway, he caught her arm gently. "What you just did, healing all of them, that took incredible power. Are you going to be able to handle the execution squad too?" Zara thought about lying, about pretending she was fine. But this Alpha had been honest with her, had offered her genuine protection instead of control, and she owed him the same honesty. "I don't know. I've never used my power by choice before. I've always been forced, drained until I passed out, then punished if I didn't recover fast enough. I have no idea what my actual limits are. Then we'll find out together." Caspian's golden eyes held hers. "And if you start to burn out, you stop. Immediately. We'll find another way. Your life isn't worth less than ours just because you have a rare gift." Something in Zara's chest cracked open at those words. For 19 years, her life had been worth exactly as much as her power. The moment she couldn't perform, she would have been killed. And this Alpha, this stranger, was telling her she mattered beyond her usefulness. She didn't know how to respond to that, so she just nodded and headed down the stairs. The door finally gave way just as she reached the main level. It exploded inward in a shower of splinters and twisted metal, and wolves poured through. Not 20, not 30, but what looked like an endless wave of them. They were massive, enhanced to the point where they barely looked lupin anymore, all rippling muscle and glowing eyes and fangs like daggers. And they moved with synchronized precision that spoke of military training and magical coordination. The Western Shadow Pack's elite guard met them head-on. It was beautiful and terrible, watching trained warriors fight with everything they had. Fire bloomed in the hands of one guard, forming a wall of flame that forced the attackers to funnel through a narrow gap. Another called water from the storm outside, creating ice slicks that sent enhanced wolves sliding and crashing. Earth magic reinforced the walls, keeping the structure from collapsing under the assault. But there were too many attackers, and they were too strong. For every one the guards took down, 2 more pushed through. They were losing ground, being forced back toward the stairs where Zara stood. She took a breath, opened herself completely to her power, and stepped forward into the chaos. The first enhanced wolf that reached for her found his strength draining away like water through his fingers. Zara grabbed his wrist and pulled, absorbing the stolen power that had been artificially boosted into him. It burned going in, foreign and wrong, but she held onto it, channeling it away into the earth beneath the lighthouse. The wolf collapsed, not dead but completely depowered, his eyes wide with shock. The second wolf tried to hit her with enhanced speed. She caught his fist mid-swing, absorbed the speed, and immediately redirected it to the guard fighting beside her. The guard suddenly moved like lightning, taking down 3 attackers in the time it would have taken to handle one. More wolves came at her. She drained them one after another, pulling out the artificial enhancements and either neutralizing them or redistributing them to Caspian's people. Fire enhancement went to the guard who already used flames, making his ability strong enough to create a wall of heat that the attackers couldn't cross. Enhanced healing went to the wounded who were already back on their feet, letting them shrug off new injuries almost instantly. But it was taking its toll. Each absorption felt like swallowing broken glass, each redistribution like bleeding from a wound that wouldn't close. Zara's vision started to blur at the edges. Her hands were shaking badly enough that she almost couldn't maintain contact with the wolves she was draining. Blood was running freely from her nose and her ears now, and there was a pressure in her chest like her ribcage was too small to contain everything she was channeling. "Fall back." Caspian's voice cut through the chaos. "Everyone upstairs. Now." The guards retreated in coordinated groups, never leaving themselves exposed, using the spiral stairs as a choke point, just as Caspian had planned. Zara stumbled after them, her legs barely working. She made it 3 steps before her knees gave out completely. Strong arms caught her before she hit the ground. Caspian lifted her like she weighed nothing, carrying her up the stairs while his guards held the line below. "You're done," he said firmly. "You've bought us enough time. We're evacuating through the tunnel." "Can't." Zara managed through lips that were going numb. "Still too many. They'll follow. Collapsed tunnel. Trap us." "Then what do you suggest?" Zara forced her eyes to focus on his face, on those golden eyes that looked at her like she mattered. "Let me absorb you. You're shadow walking. I can amplify it. Get everyone out at once. That power is bonded to my alpha status. If you drain it, I won't drain. I'll borrow. Channel through me. Use me as a conduit." Zara gripped his shirt with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. "Trust me. Please." She saw the moment he made the decision. Saw him choose to trust a Black Omega he'd known for less than an hour over every instinct that said protecting his alpha power was paramount. He set her down gently in the Keeper's quarters where his people were gathered and knelt in front of her. "Tell me what to do." Zara placed both hands on his chest, right over his heart. "Open yourself to me. Don't fight it. Let me in." Caspian's power was nothing like the stolen enhancements she'd been draining. It was vast and ancient, and so intimately connected to who he was that touching it felt like touching his soul. Shadow walking wasn't just a power. It was an extension of his alpha nature, his ability to protect his pack by being everywhere at once in darkness. Zara gasped as it flooded into her, overwhelming and magnificent and utterly terrifying. "I've got you," Caspian said quietly, his hands covering hers. "You're not alone in this." Zara pulled at the power, absorbing it not to take it away, but to amplify it through her own gift. Black Omegas could neutralize powers, yes, but they could also enhance them, combine them, reshape them. She'd never been allowed to try that before. Every time she'd used her gift, it had been to harm, to drain, to weaken. This time, she used it to protect. The shadows in the room deepened, spreading like living things. They covered every wolf present, wrapping around them like protective cloaks. Zara could feel Caspian's power working through her, amplified by her channeling until it was strong enough to move not just him, but all 23 people at once. "The caves," she gasped. "Under the cliffs. Safe house. 200 miles north. Can you see it?" Caspian's eyes had gone completely black, his wolf so present that his voice resonated with dual tones. "I see it. The shadows swallow them whole." Transportation by shadow was nothing like Zara had imagined. It felt like being unmade and remade at the molecular level, like existing everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. She felt every member of the pack, could sense their fear and determination and desperate hope. She felt Caspian's presence like an anchor, solid and unshakable, even in the void between places. And then they were somewhere else. Zara collapsed the moment the shadows released them, every bit of strength gone. The last thing she saw before darkness claimed her completely was Caspian's face above hers, his expression fierce with an emotion she couldn't name. "You did it," he said. "You saved us all." Then everything went black. She woke in a bed so soft she thought she was dreaming. Actual sheets, clean and warm. Pillows that didn't smell like mildew. A room with walls that didn't have cracks letting in the cold. For a disorienting moment, Zara thought she was back in the Blood Moon Pack's Alpha Mansion, chained in the basement, and this was just another fever dream brought on by silver poisoning. Then she saw Caspian. He was sitting in a chair beside the bed, his silver-streaked black hair loose around his shoulders, those golden eyes watching her with an intensity that should have been frightening, but somehow wasn't. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept in days, but he smiled when he saw her eyes open. "Welcome back. You've been unconscious for 36 hours. Zara sat up slowly, her body aching in ways that had nothing to do with physical injury. "Where are we?" "Safe house. 200 miles from that lighthouse. The Western Shadow Pack's emergency refuge for wolves in danger." Caspian leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "You transported 23 wolves across 200 miles using a power you'd never channeled before. The pack healer says you should be dead. Your system should have burned out completely. But you're not dead. You're healing faster than any Black Omega on record. Lucky me, Zara said dryly, then paused. The children? The injured? Everyone made it safely. The 3 young wolves are already settling in. Your healing held. All 12 wounded are back to full strength. Caspian's expression grew serious. We also received confirmation that the Sovereign Execution Squad reached the lighthouse about 10 minutes after we evacuated. They found nothing but an empty building and no trail to follow. As far as they know, we vanished into thin air. Good. Zara swung her legs out of bed, testing her balance. She was wearing clean clothes, soft pants, and a tunic that definitely weren't hers. Someone had bathed her while she was unconscious and dressed her in pack clothing. The intimacy of that should have bothered her, but somehow it didn't. What happens now? Now we have a conversation about what you want. Caspian stood, and even exhausted and rumpled, he radiated alpha authority. About what you felt when we touched in the lighthouse. Zara's hand went instinctively to her chest, to the place where that connection had blazed to life. I don't know what that was. Yes, you do. Caspian moved closer, but he didn't crowd her, didn't use his size or power to intimidate. You felt it the same way I did. The mate bond. True mate bond. Not a political alliance or a convenient pairing, but the real thing. The moon goddess marking 2 souls as meant for each other. Every instinct screamed at Zara to deny it, to run, to protect herself from the possibility of more pain. But she'd spent 8 months running, and 19 years before that being controlled by fear. Maybe it was time to try something different. I felt it, she admitted quietly. But that doesn't mean it's a good idea. I'm a Black Omega. Everywhere I go, I bring danger. The Blood Moon Pack will never stop hunting me, and now the Sovereign Pack wants me dead too. If I stay with you, I'm putting your entire pack at risk. My pack is already at risk. We chose to stand against the Sovereign's purification agenda. We chose to protect Black Omegas instead of sacrificing them. That war was coming whether you were here or not. Caspian reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and took her hand. But having you here, having your power, your gift, your strength, that makes us better able to fight, to protect the vulnerable, to actually win. You don't need me to fight. You need me to be a weapon. No, Caspian's voice was firm. I need you to be my partner, my equal, my mate if you'll have me. The weapon thing, that's optional. Always optional. Always your choice. Zara stared at their joined hands, at the way his skin was so much darker than hers, at the strength in his fingers that held her gently despite being able to crush stone. I don't know how to be someone's mate. I don't know how to be part of a pack. I've been alone or controlled my entire life. Then we learned together. Caspian smiled, and it transformed his face from intimidating to beautiful. I don't need you to be perfect. I just need you to try, to stay, to trust that maybe, just maybe, you finally found somewhere you belong. Outside the window, Zara could hear wolves calling to each other, children laughing, the normal sounds of pack life that she'd only ever experienced from the outside. She thought about the 3 young wolves who'd been evacuated during the attack, about the 12 she'd healed, about 23 souls she'd helped save, about Marcus, who died believing she was worth freedom. I'll stay, she said finally, but I have conditions. Name them. I'm not chained. Ever. Not for training. Not for safety. Not for any reason. If I stay free. Agreed. I use my power when and how I choose. Not on command. Not because someone orders it. My gift, my decision. Absolutely. And if this mate bond thing is real, if we're actually meant to be together, then you have to promise me something. Zara looked up at him, letting him see all her fear and hope and desperate need to believe. Promise me you'll tell me if I'm wrong. If I'm too damaged, or too dangerous, or too difficult. Promise me you won't just endure me because of some cosmic bond. I need to know I'm chosen, not just fated. Caspian lifted their joined hands and pressed his lips to her knuckles, his golden eyes never leaving hers. I choose you, Zara. Every day, I'll choose you. The moon goddess gave us a bond, yes, but that just means she knew what I'd figure out on my own eventually. You're brave and strong and brilliant, and you saved my entire pack using power you'd only ever been forced to use as a weapon. How could I not choose you? Something in Zara's chest loosened, that tight knot of fear and shame she'd carried for so long. She wasn't fixed. She wasn't healed. She still had nightmares about silver chains and dark basements and Marcus's blood on her hands. But maybe, just maybe, she could be those things and still be worthy of love. Okay, she whispered. Okay, we'll try this. Caspian pulled her into his arms, and Zara let herself be held, let herself feel safe, let herself believe that maybe running was finally over. Outside, 20 wolves who'd banged on her door during a snowstorm went about their lives, protecting a pack that valued black omegas instead of fearing them. And inside, a damaged Omega and an Alpha King began the slow process of building something neither of them had thought possible. Home. Thank you for watching Ken's Romance Stories, where love always finds its way home. If this story touched your heart, don't leave quietly. Tell me what part stayed with you in the comments. Remember to like this video, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss when the next love story begins. Until then, may your heart stay brave, your dreams stay wild, and may love always find you.